So you've purchased the Scrapbooking Workshop Sweet Memories. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to complete these 3 beautiful projects right here? Or are you like me and you like to switch things up? Now, I really loved this piece of paper right here. This pattern paper was so pretty, but they're using them for the base pages on project number 1. So stick around and see how I switch things up and use this beautiful side of the pattern paper for project number 3. Let's get started. Let's start with project number 1. Now, if you're following along with the instructions right here, project number 1, you are going to use both of these sheets for your base pages, and you're going to separate all of these pieces here. And these are the die cuts that come with the workshop kit, and they're all labeled at the back. So it makes it really nice and easy to figure out what goes where on what layout. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. And remember I told you I really like this pattern right here. So this is why I decided to change up project number 1, and I'm going to make a really pretty single page layout. And I'm going to change up this one probably the most. For project number 1, I am going to document one photo. I've got to print that. I'm going to take all of these pieces here and I'm going to change them up quite a bit. I think you're really going to like it. I saw an idea on Pinterest and I will link that down below, but I'm going to transform all of these pieces into a featured heart on my single page layout. So for layout number 1, I said that I was going to do a featured element on this page, and I'm going to create this really pretty heart. Now I've cut this one out on my Cricut, and I will list down below the M number that I used in Cricut Design Space, and it was cut at 10 3/4, I believe. So I'm going to add this gorgeous heart right in the center, and then I'm going to use these pieces here to fill it all in. Now you can see here that I did a test, and basically what I did, I took a piece and I used just copy paper and I made myself a template, because we all know once we cut these pieces it's a one and done. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to cut this piece. And I'm going to make myself a few wedges, and these pieces here, you can play with them. You can kind of figure out where you want to put them to cover this heart. So what I found was that the easiest thing to do was to use them as is and to also cut them directly in half. So I'm going to go from the point right here and I'm going to cut that right in the center. And these smaller pieces are going to be filler pieces for the bottom and for the top. I'm going to do that. I'm just showing you the process on how I achieved this look. Now, when I was ready to adhere my pieces down, you will notice in the kit that there's 2 of these that are slightly bigger. You see that? And we're going to add them. You see how I'm not really joining everything in the center? And don't worry about that. I'm going to add this first piece just like so. So right here, I'm in line with the heart. And this piece here is going to be trimmed. So you can see that. And then this one here, the same thing. I'm going to line it up with the heart, or the edge of the heart. And it's going to be trimmed as well. And then I'm just going to add the rest of the pieces. And I'm going to distribute the pattern. So this one fits in nice. This one here is nice and light. And I am going to cut this one in half. So I know once it's cut, you can't go back, but I think that because I did a test run with some pieces, I'm quite confident that I can get this done. So I'm going to just go and I'm going to cut this in half. And I'm going to have a piece that's going to go right here. And this one is going to go right here. And then for here, I'm going to add this piece. You see that? And then I've got this at the bottom and this at the top. We'll address this in a second. So the bottom pieces, I'm going to cut that in half because I want the point of my heart. Okay, so because we are using pieces that already have an angle, a predetermined angle on them, it's a little bit difficult to close off this circle, or this heart, I should say. So I did use a template, like I just cut that out. And this is going to be my piece right here. So I'm going to add this piece. So I am going to follow this template for this piece, and that's going to go right here. And then for this one here, I'm thinking that I can go ahead and use this one, and I'm just going to follow the edge of this line. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of those pieces. I'm going to speed up this process a tiny little bit. I'm flipping over my heart template, and I'm just going to do a faint pencil line on all of those pieces. I just felt it was easier for me. Definitely, if you're more comfortable using your scissors, you can definitely do that at this point. But for me, this worked out quite nicely. So I am going to detach all of those pieces. I've tacked them down with just a little bit of double-sided tape. And I'm just going to cut around those pencil marks that I've just done. And I'm going to put them back down, and you'll see that this heart comes to life. Now, I really, really like how I was able to change those pieces and create my own focal point for this layout. Doesn't this look awesome? I really, really like the way this turned out. Let's put it on the page here. I'm going to straighten out that photo. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to stitch each of these pieces right here, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, I've gone ahead and I've stitched all of those pieces, and I think that it looks really, really pretty. I've also printed my photo. This is a photo of my sister. She passed away last spring. I miss her terribly. And when I saw this paper collection, I knew that I had to document this photo of her. So hopefully she'll like this, because it's probably going to end up in my scrapbooking room on the wall. Now, I am trying to stay true to the workshop guide, and I did notice in here that they are doing some ink distressing at the back, so ink blending with this gorgeous color right here. And because of that, I decided to not keep the template underneath, because that ink blending is going to show through those pieces of the heart, and I think that it's going to look really, really pretty. So we're going to do that technique. Now you can use a blender brush. I tend to keep these for my dye-based ink. I'm going to use a dome foam right here, and I'm going to have to go with a light touch, because definitely you can go lighter with these soft brushes, but this should work, so we'll try that. And then I was also looking at what were the stickers for this layout, and it says to use this one here, Sweet Memories. Now, I definitely could use Sweet Memories, but it's a little bit heavy, because I do want to keep this as a focal point at the bottom. I'm going to pull out the stamp set that goes with this collection, and look at this, Never Forget, and I think that that's going to look really pretty right here. I'm going to actually stamp all of these on White Daisy using charcoal ink, because that's the color here. And I'm going to do the ink blending right now, and then I'll put it all together and we can take a look at this Reimagined project number 1. I'm really, really liking how it's turning out so far. So let's do a little bit of ink blending. This is a brand new color for me, and it is quite saturated. So I'm going to start right here in the back of this piece. So I know that, you know, when you first go down, it's usually a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to add some color, oh, probably all the way up. I'm going to move my pieces and I'm just going to ink blend. Okay, I'm going to scooch these out of the way. And then I'm going to do the splatters with the water, but I'm basically going to use my fan brush. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water in my hand here. And then I'm just going to tap and add a little bit of water splatters on this. I think that that's enough. You can see that there's like these really pretty splatters right here. But I think I want to do ink splatters. I think that that would look nice. So I'm going to squish that into the lid. I'm going to add a little bit of water. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that looks pretty. I think that that looks really nice. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to assemble this page. Before I do that, I'm going to stamp all of these images right here. And I'm just going to remove the manufacturer residue. I'm going to stamp these images using charcoal. I felt that it was a softer color to use with this paper collection. And I will go over this about 2 or 3 times to get a good stamped impression. But look at that title up here. Doesn't it look just great? Let's take a look at the completed layout. I'm super happy on how it turned out. I love the stamp title here. I did some ink blending and ink distressing. I added pretty much the stickers that were called for project number 1. And I created this gorgeous title. Now, if you create this title in Cricut, the letters are about 1/2 inch, depending on the sentence or the title that you're going to put on. I did all of the stitching. I did add a tiny little bit of stitching here and some stamping right here at the top. I'm really happy on how this first project turned out. Let's start project number 2. Let's take a look at project number 2. I pretty much stayed true to the sketch for project number 2. The only thing I did, I switched out some of the papers. I switched out this paper right here and this paper right here, which is an additional sheet of charcoal on the light side. But everything else, the placement, the titles, all of the die cuts are the same. I'm going to go ahead and assemble this layout and I'll show you the completed project. Before I go ahead and adhere all of these pieces down, I just wanted to show you a few of the minor changes that I did. So definitely I'm using a white daisy cardstock base and I'm adding 2 pieces of pattern paper. And if this color doesn't work with your photos, this one works just as well. Even with the zip strip right here or the branding strip, if you prefer the green, it picks up on all of the green in this really gorgeous print. I did go ahead and I did machine stitch this piece here of cardstock. You don't have to do that, but I just thought that it looked really, really pretty. If you want to have a similar look, you can go ahead and use a stylus and then you can sand distress this piece and it will give you a very similar look with probably not as much effort. But I don't mind taking out my sewing machine once in a while, and I really do feel that it lends itself to this paper collection. I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of these pieces. You can definitely flip this piece of pattern paper if you prefer the green. I just thought I would show you how that looks. Here is the completed project number 2. I'll go over some of the changes that I've made. I did use a white daisy base because I'm adding 2 pieces of pattern paper to extend it. I did change up the pattern paper for this one here. As far as the rest, I've pretty much stayed true to the sketch here and all of the embellishment. The one thing I did change up was, you can see here that they have pattern paper and then they have a strip. I didn't add the strip here. I didn't think it was needed. I just cut this piece and of course I did a little bit of stitching. On this side here, again, I use the pattern paper as a different piece, and I did the same thing. I extended the size of this photo mat. Instead of changing between cardstock and pattern paper, I felt that it grounded this page a little bit more with the color palette that I had chosen. Now, if you decide to flip this over and use the sage color, I would recommend using a mat here that is in mink. It's going to pick up the color of this pattern paper. Let's continue on with project number 3, where I will show you the changes that I've made for that double page layout. Here we are with project number 3, and this is where it took another bit of a twist. Now, I did stay true to this layout here, which is the right side. I've moved it on the left. And this piece here is the same piece that we have right here. I might add a little bit of color in the back. I'm not sure as of yet. Basically, what I did with the sheet that I saved from project number 1, I cut myself a piece at 4 by 12, and this one here is a 6 by 12. I really did like this pattern, and I wanted to kind of make a really different layout. I do like all of the banners, but I wanted to add more photos. Now, this one right here, you could also add 2 4 by 4, a 4 by 3, or a 4 by 6. So it lends itself to quite a bit to change the amount of photos that you want to document. Now, I did hollow out this piece. I'm just going to move this over to save because we're only using it as a border. But I really like the way that this is shaping up. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to assemble this, and then I'll show you the completed layout. Let's take a look at layout number 3, or project number 3. It has gone through a complete transformation, as you can see. But I did start with the right page. I ended up moving it on this side. And then I just added this one here. I just felt that all of the banners and all of that was limiting for me. Now, it's really cute. It's a super cute layout. But I really like the way that this one turned out, and especially I like the way that I was able to bring in this piece of pattern paper because it was probably my favorite one. So what did I change on here? This is the same size. This is the same size. This is as well. I've moved this to the left, and then here I've cut myself a piece, and it's 6 inches. This is 6.5, and it's that nice sage pattern paper. And then I just distributed the stickers that were meant for project number 3. I really like the way that that turned out. Let's bring back the other 2 projects. For project number 2, I basically stayed true to the sketch. I changed up the pattern paper, and yes, I did change up the mats for the photos, but everything else, all the stickers, all the die cuts do belong on project number 2. And project number 1 obviously is my favorite layout. It is a single page layout, and I really love the way this one turned out. I hope that you've enjoyed this transformation where I took the Sweet Memories scrapbooking kit and made it into something that will match more my style and my photos. Well, that's it for me today. I hope that you've picked up a few helpful tips, and if you did, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.